welcome back to this special edition of the Cisco Virtual Kitchen Network, the SVK Network. We are here with Shucker Paddy, prestige, worldwide, internationally known legend in the industry, holds world records for shucking oysters, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I thought it was just in my own mind, let alone the industry type of thing. So thank you for having me.
Hey, if you believe in your own mind eventually and you work hard enough, right, then everybody else starts to believe it too.
It's rainbows and cloudy, blue skies inside. The weather's great. Come on in.
Awesome. So what do we got going on here today?
We're here to chat about oysters, I guess, or whatever else you want to talk about in the whole works. We're going to do all types of stuff.
Very cool, very cool. And I mean, I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but you've got your, you've got your patented glove, you got your patented knife. But I know you also want to talk about, the different kind of oyster programs that restaurants can adopt.
Well, I was just doing a workshop where I'm trying to teach consumers, restaurant people, why do you put oysters into a restaurant? And a lot of people, owners are always like, bucket shuck. I want to do bucket shuck for my restaurant.
Yeah.
You can't do bucket shuck just off the bat. You need to, it doesn't work as well as you would expect. I've had many restaurants go, it doesn't work. Bucket shuck on a Wednesday. Great, but you do oysters all week long? No. Well, then those people who want to do oysters are wary of you at that point in time. Do you have any knowledge about doing oysters at that point? The simple fact is you put oysters on every day, and just have them on, do a 6 or do 12 or do them as an appetizer, but from Monday to Monday, all week long. And then do your happy hour, you will find you will triple your sales, quadruple your sales. That's what you want to do.
That's what you were saying earlier. You're saying it's not just about having oysters, it's about having a program that's consistent, and not only your staff is trained, but you're also trying to let your guests know this is something you guys are doing all the time, and that you know what you're doing.
Exactly. The guests will be very confident at that point that you know what you're doing if you have it on all the time. And I didn't think like this ahead of time. My story goes like I had Starfish back in the day, and that was my downtown restaurant that did oysters all the time. Everybody knew about it. When I built Cayley Cottage, which is my Irish bar, I'm like, no one's going to go to an Irish bar for oysters. I'll have it on the menu just because it's me, and I'll bring them from downtown, and people will know that. And what I found out later, like what I thought was, we'd have them there, we'll rotate them in and out, they won't sell, whatever. I'll just rotate them. I can get rid of them somehow.
Yeah.
But people started coming in. It was crazy. And one time I had 2 ladies come in, sit at the bar. We'll go, oh, good, you got oysters. I'll take 24 oysters, please. I go, oh, you must know that I brought them in from downtown Starfish. They go, no, who are you and what's Starfish? I'm like, oh, terrible for me and Starfish, but good for the oyster. Because they just walked in and see that you have oysters in 24, that you're going to have to do it that way, and you get better consistency out of it as well. So it's great because if you put a program in, you will have this, and what I call it is the fourth course. Oysters are a fourth course. Appetizers, mains, desserts. This is your 3 courses. Oysters fit between cocktails or drinks and appetizers. Okay. And the reason it's easy to do, if you have them on the menu, it's like, hi, I'm your server today. Y'all want to have a couple of drinks? Super, I'll get that for you. Are you thinking of a couple of oysters? We can get that going at the same time as we're making your drinks. And before you know it, you've sold a $30 plate of oysters. Well, yeah, or more or less, or whatever you want to do. $30 plate of oysters at the cocktail level, then they get appetizers, then they get mains, then they get desserts.
And that's so important right now. I mean, look at food service, like cost is higher. There's less capacity. People have full capacity now, but they're not filling up the restaurants. So it's like you need to maximize the revenue with everybody that comes in. And you just invented a 4th course. You didn't invent it, but you can inject that in automatically.
I invented oysters. It's true. I was around.
Well, I believe it. I mean, look at this. But,
the concept of 4th course is therefore it's actually easy for servers to understand. So when I go in and I train a crew, and I use words to describe oysters, like a sommelier talks about wine. Yeah. If you can think about paralleling in that sense, even if you're not into wine, Irish bar. We had wine, but we're all about the beer and the wine and everything else. Yeah. But we got very good at understanding the oysters what we had there, because we had Irish and Prince Edward Island, or Canadian. We did generally 2, maybe 3. Eventually we had to get 5, because people really demanded the variety of oysters.
Because they could tell now, because you had a program for it. It wasn't just oysters.
That's like super high end. If you want to get into that level, then your whole crew gets into it. But adding the technique of shucking oysters to a bartender's skill, if I'm an owner hiring people, I need some bartenders. If I have a bartender go, great, I make great cocktails and drinks, super. I do great cocktails, drinks, and I can shuck oysters. Guess who's going to get hired? Yeah. And so now I can use that process, and what I would recommend is all bartenders learn it as one of your tricks of your trade to actually do, and I do a good, nice oyster. You don't have to be quick. You just have to produce a nice looking oyster. Then you can also bundle. You pair oysters and spirits, whiskeys, tequila, gin, vodka. You can make cocktails out of the liquor, the clear liquor that comes out of the oyster. You can use that as a seasoning. Put it into a Caesar. Add it to the Caesar.
I was making it. I always do like my oyster Caesar. I'd have the vodka, I'd have the horseradish, and the cocktail sauce, and I would make my little cocktail there.
It becomes one of those ingredients that it's an ingredient unto itself, but it also can be part of a larger thought, a larger program. Then what I conceive of when I talk about this is programming. It's 7/12, 365. 7 days a week, your Monday special, your Tuesday special. You can put oysters into special categories like that. If you have the ingredient, you can add it into the menu. It's just another story. Then 12, once a month, you can do a big event. Whether it's a big festival, St. Patrick's Day, you can do all oysters, St. Patrick's Day type of thing. That's, of course, what I do.
Ultimate green?
Every month, you can do something. Well, you can get a green oyster shell. I've got some here that I'm fusing into the cocktails.
Yeah.
And then 365, you can really promote that in an everyday oyster type of situation. It's healthy, it's sustainable, it works really well as an actual ingredient. So it's great for it.
You know what's so important? I mean, look, talk about, you want to bring people in your restaurant. We've got a gentleman right here interested, so there you go.
Go right ahead.
There's case in point right
so
there.
Prince Edward Island oysters, what happened? See, they just moths.
They're already flying off the shelves. I love it.
And the beautiful thing is these are adventurous people.
Yeah.
What I've been saying in my workshop today was like oysters are not for everyone, and you don't want everyone in. You want the adventurous eaters in, is what you want, and it's always new. I did 6,000 oysters in 4 days at the Masters, and every single day, although there's a lot of people who love the oysters, a lot of new ones, or have had it before but don't like it. And you walk them through it, you get it to it. This is his first day eating oysters too. They're not bad, eh? Is this your first
we got
day
the
oysters?
world record holder.
Oh, you had it before? You're a pro. Look at that. Keep at it. Shoulders back. Patty, you want some in there? Should I keep shucking?
I think you're going to attract more people.
Right on. There you go. That's the way to do it.
So if you have a restaurant and you don't have an oyster program, look at this. We've opened up a temporary restaurant. We've already got oysters bringing in people, bringing in crowds.
Are you eating oysters? This is this is a beautiful one. Big, fat, buttery. Whoa. So on this one, this is a Bariswa oyster coming out of Prince Edward Island. Right now they're showcasing sweet salt. So the salt, the sweetness first, then a saltiness, but it's soft. And as you're breathing in through the mouth and out through the nose, butter and a nice earthiness. Yeah, the earthiness is really kind of finishing it. Really,
you just described the journey my mouth just went on. That was awesome.
And that's what you can do with oysters.
Yeah.
And all works. Jay, you want to have an oyster?
Did you do it, Jay? I think one of the most important things right now is restaurants are competing with people on their couches, right?
You want to walk it? You want to try it first time? Like he was a first time eater.
Yeah. You don't want to name it. Just don't name it first. It's harder to eat.
Now, this is a beautiful oyster. What you have here, when you slide it in and chew it up, my mom always said to chew my food, so it's going to be meaty. It's wet, meaty, but really it's going to be sweet salt. It's going to taste like the ocean. As you chew it, it's going to be very buttery on the palate. Really cool. Chew it up. Now, breathe in through your mouth. As you swallow it, you've got this meatiness. Swallow it now. That was good. You're good.
Here it comes.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
You don't have to say a yes. You can say, no, I don't like that. It's a textural thing that you're not used to.
Yeah.
Right. Flavor-wise, you've got that saltiness and sweetness, and then butteriness and a little earthiness right about now. But I will never do that again. That's perfectly fine. You get a fist bump? Absolutely. People have to experience this for the first time, sometimes for the last time, but sometimes they'll do it again.
Well, it's the texture shock, I think, was for me when I first started trying it, right?
It is. You need a beverage?
I have one right
Yeah.
And then I remember when I first started doing it too, I would I'd probably use a little bit more horseradish or the things that was cocktail sauce,
those
things I was familiar
you can add
with.
on to it. Right,
and then
right.
slowly I started pulling those away because to your point, I started appreciating the difference between, I had 4 or 5 different types. Yeah.
I had a woman wants to come in and she will have 2 of everything in the restaurant. I had 20 oysters in at the time. I'm like, are you sure about that? Yes. Okay, super. So I created this massive tower and I got it down to the table. And here are your oysters from ascending order from least complex to most complex up top. And I started describing the whole thing. She goes, great. I'll have a big bowl of cocktail sauce. Now I said, no. I don't just spend the past 40 minutes organizing this for you. And she was out of it, laminately. No, nothing. You're going to experience this the way I'm telling you right now. I'll get you 40 oysters. I'll get it for you. but it'll just be one type if you're going to do sauce. She goes, no, he's here now. 20 minutes later, she comes over and I want to apologize. That was the most amazing experience. I've never experienced oysters like that. And it's that learning curve for me, which is also exciting in the restaurant trade. It's always new. Yeah. Every single day, it's always new. You're going to get new people who are going to experience for the first time. And it's always old. You're going to get people like our first timer here who's been around the block, you know what I mean? But he loves oysters and coming in just with guts.
Oh, yeah.
There weren't his oysters. Like, seriously, what is going on with this place? But it's okay. We always have more. We can feed people up. That's how it goes.
I mean, talk about, I think one of the things we're talking about in food service right now is it's so hard to get people off their couches and into your restaurants. And so anybody that's offering an experience-based, food, which I think oysters kind of fit the bill. Not only can you do like I said, like a wine, if they pair like wine or not pair like wine, but you can describe them that way. But people have to come into the restaurant and be in there, which allows restaurateurs to do upselling and allows them to, get them the tailored experience that I never would have known until I actually come into
if you get into that program. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can do this as takeaway.
Okay.
This is because when takeaway happens, shuck the oyster, put the cap back up on top, put it on a takeaway container, put it up tight, out it goes.
There you go.
You treat it like a pie. You don't swing it over your head. You get it home, you eat the oysters. You do exactly the same thing. You get days on this stuff. Keep it in the fridge, you're happy.
Oh, it's good
so we can do takeaway. We can also do retail with the oyster program because people will want to buy these. Junior here is going to want to buy oysters to take on. I take some oysters home with me. Yeah, sure. So you sell them at a retail price, not shucked on a half shell, but a lesser price for retail. A restaurant buddy down the street wants to get a box of oysters. That's a wholesale price. So one ingredient can do 7 different business profiles within one business. So takeaway, retail, wholesale, dining, bar dining. That's using your bar for where most people want to sit at the tables. You're full, get people at the bar. Now they want to sit at the bar because the oyster is being showcased there. You can eat at the bar.
And it's fun to watch the process.
I think it's more fun, and I love eating at the bar, but enticing people up. I've had that happen before. I don't want to sit at the bar, and then they end up sitting at chef's table with me, and after their supper's done, I'm not going to sit anywhere else. I'm not going to sit at bars. I'm like, you're very welcome. And then catering and events. So catering, you need a cooler, you need a tray, you need a couple of cloths, you need an oyster knife. Sure, you need some sauces, but then this is as much space as I need.
I mean, you unpacked this all like right before the show. We're all set up and ready to go. I can set
it up in a little mini. Although I had a minivan back in the day, I was doing an interview much like this, and the young lady who was interviewing me, I said, "Yeah, I drive a minivan." She goes, "Patrick, there's nothing sexy about a minivan." I go, "I don't know. It's a case of perspective. My minivan can handle 2 kegs, 4 shuckers, and 5,000 oysters. How's that?" She goes, "That's very sexy."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So
that's awesome.
Lamborghinis can't do that.
Well, I mean, I think what you just described as well is like food service restaurants, they're looking for ways to differentiate. They're looking for ways to actually be able to offer several different types of programs, and they can do that just by having one ingredient, as you described.
One ingredient.
And you can handhold these restaurants and get them started, right? This is the programs that you design.
The easiest way to do this is you pick one oyster that most everybody in this room here would agree to without knowing anything. It's like a simple East Coast oyster, Prince Edward Island oyster, fantastic. These are Verishwa. We don't have to if people say the word Malpec, everyone would be happy. So get that, put it in, have it on the menu all the time. All you need is one box. This box will last about 5 weeks, 4 weeks out of water.
Yeah.
But you're going to if you can't sell this in 4 weeks, it's 100 oysters. If you can't sell this in 4 weeks, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like you can get rid of them in about a day, if not 2 days. So once you get the program going, it makes it very, very easy. And it's really just educating. It's not educating the chef, the owner, it's the staff.
Yeah.
Those are the people. They're the frontline people who are doing the conversation with the consumer. Yeah. Those are the people that you want to do it. And then people who are going to be able to shuck the oysters, whether you shuck them in the kitchen, that's fine. You can do them in the kitchen. You don't actually have to have the program where everyone shucks up on the bar.
Yeah.
But the bartenders can now have something else to do. There's times where there's lulls here and there. The bartender who can shuck oysters figures it out and can do just shuck. If there's just shucking all day long, then that's cool. Come on in.
There we go.
Here we go. Let's just oyster bar now.
Yeah.
See that? It's the podcast. No, it's not. It's an instant oyster bar. Yes, absolutely.
And you were talking to you will actually help train that staff and those frontline workers
absolutely.
As well. Yeah, that's so important.
So you were asking if you wanted sauce, yeah? Yeah. Okay, most people will want to have sauce as well, and it's a thing where you can have it, but I like to showcase this deliciousness You're having to, absolutely. Ocean sea salt, sweet cream, a little bit of butter. You'll find this one's very buttery in the midsection, a little earthy finish to it. These are Barishwa oysters from Rustico, Prince Edward Island. Nice little taste. And you see with sauce, it's like lingerie. Less is more. Sorry, that was out loud. Thank you. And so you can put the sauces on it if you want to, and you can always add on to it.
Yeah.
So for happy hour, the best thing to do is to knock it out like this. Customers learn instantly that the best value is with no sauce, maybe a lemon. If you want to add sauce, you sell them the sauces. So for happy hour, you upsell with a tray of sauce.
Yeah.
And then you can get regular sauce, you get bougie sauces, you can get caviar, which is
You
the
can upsell
latest thing.
spirits as well.
Upsell spirits, the
Yeah.
whole works. Bundling, that's the thing. Not just wine and champagne,
Yeah.
but into the spirits, the tequila, the gin, vodka, whiskey,
Yeah.
as singles, as sippers. Because what I do then is you tipple the whiskey into the shell, you drink it out of the shell.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing that I usually do as well. Lots of different stuff.
Like with the experiences that I've had, they might have 4 or 5 different ones, and they'll have a few of the sauces out. But I mean, my first thing is, take that first one, try it out. But I don't. But in some of the programs that I've seen, it's let me just describe all the oysters to you. Thank you. And that's it. That's where it stops. What you just did, for the guests that showed up, for myself, you described the little journey like a wine, like how you describe a wine, which I think that's the missing piece, right? So you try the first
that's
one.
the upper level. Now
Yeah.
this is where we get into this concept of an oyster sommelier. What is an oyster sommelier? It's something that's not been done before.
Do I get on this?
We're just sort of getting into the onset of writing these concepts and idea with a friend of mine named Julie Chu, who's an oyster guru out of the States. We both believe that the level of education has to increase, and it's super simple to do.
No, I thought you were Alex.
Are you looking for alias?
No, I swear you looked like the guy we were yesterday.
Yeah. Cool.
I didn't show the sauce. Yeah.
It's all good. We will check in with you right after this. We're just we're
Is
doing
it
a show
oyster
here
time?
with Shucker Paddy.
No, thank you.
No, that's
Oh,
okay.
I'm good.
I'll eat it.
Cool. So so like you said, that's the upper level, right? I think that's what I can really appreciate, where all your staff can take people through this journey and try it without anything. Describe the flavor, describe the taste, and people do know their taste. So if you want to add stuff later, cool. But at least
Exactly.
take them on that journey, we appreciate the oyster and its own beauty, and then go from there.
It helps out in a long run by those words that I helped teach the frontline staff when I first did it in New York. I was working with this group called Flex Muscles. They had me come in, and I started telling them, this is what you want to explain this one oyster. There's one oyster I brought in specifically called a Maine Blanc. It's a European oyster grown in Maine. It's got big ocean flavors, sea salt, woody, whetstone, dry, tannic finish.
Yeah.
Normally, servers would say it's metallic. It tastes like metal or licking copper or whatnot, which is not very palatable in the world of talking about it. Change the word simply, say it's got a dry tannic finish like a dry red wine on the palate, whetstone, very minerally, goes really well with a champagne. And it's an oyster you're not going to sell a dozen, you sell 2. I
Yeah.
only want you to sell 2. You sell a dozen oysters and an add-on of 2 oysters because they're that special. And
Yeah.
you show them that, they're like, no, I'm not going to sell you a dozen. If they ask for a dozen after they've tried it, that's what you want to aim for.
Yeah.
And so people come back, I need 6 of those Maine Blancs. Oh, you know about them. Fabulous. And if you know about them, then you add into that mystique of it. So you add
You're creating you're turning guests into patrons. They're coming back for that experience. And like I said, I think it's going to be all about experience in food service this year.
It is.
Because right now everybody's way too comfortable in front of their flat screens using their thumbs to order all their favorite dishes.
That's right.
And hell, maybe they can order some oysters at some point, but they're probably not going to do that until they've been in the restaurant.
Well, they can do that. We can also, with the online stuff that I can do, there's a program that I can set up where it explains the flavor.
Yeah.
You look at the robots going, I love tech. Tech is it. So if tech and the information that it can have, it can be me saying, hey, congratulations, you've got 2 Maine Blancs coming in. This is the flavor range you're going to experience.
Yeah.
That's just the recording. It's the same all the time. They can do it, and I use it to teach the servers. We can use it in a menu concept as well.
And you can have the same kind of tasting notes that you would see on a scotch or a wine, right? Where they're descriptors. And I know that sometimes you get when you're close, inside the flywheel, it's the main descriptors, and then you get outside, and all of a sudden it's like shoelace and leather. There you go. I knew there was something like that.
That's an oyster tasting wheel.
There you go.
So they wrote this 100,000 years ago in cuneiform, but then they printed it. So that the concept, this is where I was developing it into the book, and the concept of the 5 species and the flavor ranges within.
Yeah.
In a global perspective, it's not just North America. We have 5 species in North America. there's multiple different species in other locations that you go to. Some of which can be imported, some of which can't. So if you want to experience the Sydney Rock oyster from Australia, hop on the plane. Bluff oysters from New Zealand, hop on the plane. If you want to go to Europe and try something out of Scandinavia or something like that, you've got to go to different places all over the place. Diva Bay, in Dubai.
Yeah.
Crazy, as it seems, like in the desert.
Yeah.
It was amazing stuff. So then they're everywhere. So you can get those flavors as well. Because they come from different regions, if you want to play into that, using just a great malt-pack oyster with the flavors of Dubai, create those flavors because I went there. Or I do one from Singapore, like a pepper crab or a chili crab.
Yeah.
You're using an oyster. Roasting up like a Singaporean flavor, you're using an oyster with it as well. So you can play into those flavors again throughout the year, no matter what you're celebrating. You can add this into it. Again, sustainability, it beats out any other protein source globally, including plant-based protein.
Okay.
What's the number one thing that plants need? Two things plants need. Three things.
Water and sun.
Water, sun, land.
Yeah.
Right? And so oysters do not need water. They're in the water.
Yeah.
They're already there. Mother Nature feeds them with the phytoplankton and the zooplankton. Yeah, sunshine they're going to get. They don't need any land. We need a lease. That's all we need. A farmer who grows these oysters just shapes the shell by using tumbling techniques. Nobody feeds them. So as a sustainability, planet-friendly, greenhouse gas emissions protein source, the comparison was made 2 years ago, and shellfish came on the bottom, which means they're on top. Zero greenhouse gas emissions, super friendly when it comes down to it. And these carbon sequester. So it's a carbon sink. So carbon is taken out of the atmosphere into the ocean, into the shell, to build the shell. And this becomes a carbon sink. So it helps out in the greenhouse gas emissions if you keep it this way.
Were you saying something earlier about the shells being, you can reuse the shells? Or
Yep, you can reuse them. Here in Toronto, you would. In New York, they put them back into the ocean.
Yeah.
Billion Oyster Project is a thing. It's fantastic. They take all the restaurants, give them back into a big bucket. They take them, season them, put them in the ocean. It helps erosion around and creates more habitat for oysters.
Yeah.
Even the Hudson River, they're growing oysters there. Not harvestable oysters, but oysters that are doing their thing and cleaning the environment. So it's a good thing for that to happen. But in Toronto, different places like that, you can take this, crush them down. I used to use them for rock salt in front of starfish on the sidewalk instead of as an aggregate. In Savannah, Georgia, they would use it as an aggregate instead of stone in concrete mixes. It's called tabby. So you can make stuff with it. You can do a very artistic stuff and everything. The very least that you should do with it in a place like Toronto or a land-based city, compost. Just put it into the compost. It's good for the soil, good for the environment. If you have a local chicken farmer, I'm going to give all my shells to the egg producers over there. They're going to take it up and give it to the chicken farmers because they eat the shells to create good eggshells. But also, before that happens, I was doing an infusion. So I took this as an infusion of tequila with a Fanny Bay oyster from British Columbia. You can see it's already got a green hue to it.
Yeah.
And when you want to taste this,
let's do it.
Sip it. Let's sip it right out of the shell.
Sip it. Yeah, I know.
So here.
You made that.
This is what we're gonna do. This is the Shucking tipple. So you're gonna, and this was really cool. So you take this oyster. It's from Prince Edward Island. You want to save a little bit of the oyster liquor in there. So slide it back, chew it up, and think about the oyster that you're having.
You want me to save some of the liquid and not the...
Try to save some of the liquid, yes. That's right, perfect. So as you bite it, breathe in and out through the nose. So you find that it's got sweet salt and then goes into a butteriness in the middle and an earthiness right about now.
Yep.
Tequila has an earthiness already. In here we have a little bit of oyster liquor, so that's sea salt and oyster liquor. And we're going to put in the tequila that's been aged for 10 days with Fanny Bay oyster, so it's got a little green hue to it, and that's seaweed. You're going to find that this comes off with a very green, sea greens note to it, as well as the earthiness of the tequila.
Wow.
As an interesting
That's
little
nice.
infusion. Now
Smooth,
take that,
too.
and very smooth. The calcium in the shell smooths out most alcohols.
Yeah.
Because you're also marrying it with the salt water, the salt pops everything as well.
I mean, it's almost like a snake bite, but an oyster bite. Just
Right.
missing like a lime or something. Or
So
a lemon.
imagine as a cocktail mixture, whatever person you are, bartender, using this now as an ingredient. This is just one.
Yeah.
So if you do a gin and a vodka and what with the Fanny Bay, now you're doing that. Now you have Prince Edward Island flavors versus British Columbia flavors versus Irish versus Maine. Save the shells from wherever you got. You can now bundle them into boxes and bottles.
That just looks nice too.
It looks
That's gonna
kind of
look
cool.
great up on the
And
shelf.
imagine that up on the wall. It's like
Yeah.
mad scientist time now. And then you can get into seaweeds. You
Yeah.
can put the seaweed in the same thing. It really gets very great. But again, before you toss your shell, let's use it again. Let's use it for something else.
Everybody forgets there's 3 R's in recycling, right? It's reduce, reuse, and recycle.
And recycle.
Yeah.
And this is one of those recycling, upcycling type of things as
Oh, I
well.
love
So
it.
figuring that out.
Like Jay, we've been talking to a lot of people in food service, and I mean, all the hot topics and the themes that restaurants need to pay attention to this year. We talk about sustainability, we talk about experience-based stuff, we talk about finding ways to increase like your check values, right? And I mean, you've hit all of these, like.
And this is not new. Oysters
Right.
has been around for like 25 million years.
Yeah.
I've only been around for about 15 of those. Easy.
But I mean,
Not
in that
supposed to laugh at
time,
those ones.
yeah, but in that time, so I mean, talk about the stuff you have. So this is your knife too. Like you've designed this special knife.
Yeah. Well, I have a degree in kinesiology, which is why I'm so good at food service. Yeah, my parents were very happy. 5-year university degree, and I come out the other end as a shucker.
Shucker,
Yes,
yeah.
lucky
So
me.
tell me, what's unique about this?
Well, it's an ergodynamic thought towards what a regular oyster knife is. Usually an oyster knife is a little round ball of wood
Yeah.
or a long cylinder
I've seen
and a
them,
blade
yeah.
stuck into the top of it, and away you go.
Yeah.
It's made by a knife maker. And it's rare that any of the knives I don't think, have ever gone through someone who's the shucker.
Yeah.
It's the shuckers just buying a knife. That's an oyster shucker. I've seen so many shuckers out there globally where they're using a knife that's not designed for that oyster in that region. There's
Okay,
ones with a
yeah.
little curved tip that only should be done for the oysters down in the Gulf of Mexico.
I went out east and 3 friends all brought their own knife, and they were all different.
They're all different. Everyone thinks they know the thing.
Yeah.
Not saying that mine is the be all end all.
Sure.
Mine is very strange, very weird to use.
Yeah.
But it's ergodynamically and it's thought, and it actually uses less force. Because it's got 2 axis points, the oyster axis and the handle axis, A and B.
Yeah.
It's 135 degrees between tip and tail. That creates a fulcrum around the oyster axis here.
And you're not
Allows you
putting
to
all the
torque it
pressure
out.
into your palm, essentially, right? Yeah.
Right. I can actually open an oyster with 3 fingers of force. It'll pop open the shell.
Very cool.
And then so I opened up that, then created the tray, and it makes it easier for you to open
Mm.
oysters and stuff. So that's how I got very good. That's the ability aspect. The thought process of talking to people about oysters, that's just something that came along after the number of years of doing it. It's really just one person asked me once, so what's the difference between an East Coast and a West Coast oyster? And I had to explain to them, salt sweet, ocean sea salt, sweet green melon cucumber. So that's where you're going to get, there's a lot of people like to analyze and talk about oysters that way. Those are going to be oyster sommeliers. The oyster shuckers are the ability, the people with an ability. And then, of course, you can always hybrid and do the both.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a kind of a program concept I'm working on right now to develop that and sort of teach people as well. So that's
Right, and
what
you
I do.
probably only need one of the one oyster sommelier plus, and you can have X amount of shuckers.
Well, it
supporting
depends.
them, right?
If you're Berkman's place down at the Augusta, you need 10 shuckers who can nick back up 100,000 oysters a day.
Yeah.
They go through 10,000 oysters a day.
Well, have you been
In the
to
Culinary, it's crazy.
Shaw's Crab House in Chicago?
Have you been to Shaw's Crab House?
I have.
Have you been to the Oyster Hall of Fame?
I haven't been, but that was one of the first places I experienced oysters, and that's an experience.
So
They've got
you-
the live music, they've
Yeah.
got the
Oh,
bar
it's
where you sit
fantastic.
around. Oh, wow.
In the Oyster Hall of Fame, I've been inducted into the Oyster Hall of Fame because of the book, because of this.
Yeah.
So there's oyster people in the Oyster Hall of Fame, which is another story altogether.
Mm.
But it's a fantastic experience, absolutely. So you're from Chicago.
I'm not from Chicago, but funny enough, my father used to do trade shows there.
Okay.
And so he's like, the one place I can recommend, Shaw's Crab House.
Yeah.
And so the first time I went to Chicago, that's where I went. And let me just say that in the next 3 days, we went there 3 times in 2 days. Every client meeting, we just brought them there. And just
It-
you got to
it
sit down.
happens.
You got to go to this experience. And to this day, the people that I brought there, next time we went there, we went back to this place.
Yeah.
And that's a great example of how to create that entire atmosphere and experience, right?
And that's the thing with restaurant, and when you do that type of thing, it becomes that value add to your establishment. You create the program, create the experience where people will just keep coming back.
Yeah.
The funny thing with oyster, like I said originally, I said it's not for everyone. It's for the people who are adventurous and like experiences, and those are the people you want in your business.
And those are the people
They're
that are
going to
going
come back
out right
again
now.
and again, and they're going to tell their friends.
They're going to talk about it. They're going to tell their
And
friends.
that's your word of mouth.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
And everybody wants to be first, right? So if someone
Yep.
sees this, they want to be the first person to tell their friends about it.
And the thing with oyster, it's always a perpetually new thing. It's only been
Yeah.
30 years, but every day it's a new thing for most of this room someone just had one. We just had one here that was new. We had one here that was older, who's done it before, and has told all of his friends about oysters.
Yeah.
So it's an ingredient that you can get excited about. You know that it's healthy, it's good for you. Don't tell everyone. Don't tell everyone it's nutritious for you, because they're like, I want to fry it. Go ahead, try it. It doesn't matter. You can do anything with it. It's fantastic.
So let's talk about your program then.
Right.
What is the general? So like, when say a restaurant wants to start, like get started, like what is the usual? Like how long does it take? What's the the training requirements? Or
What I've done is I can start onboarding as a Zoom. So I'm at a distance. So I have my clients in New York. We started with the Zoom situation. We've done a couple of meetings, and then I set up my program. I have a Google class. I create that program. Everyone at the restaurant logs into it. They can follow along. They can go like a regular class, and then it's going to be Zoom training day.
Yeah.
So we're going to do lecture number 1, we're going to do oyster 101, etc. And then for physical stuff, it's usually best if I come in, because then I can do a couple of different things. When I go into an establishment, I will analyze the area of the establishment if it's running efficiently, because you want efficiency set up into your system. How the people are shucking are usually not efficient. There's contests going on right now. First few people that I watched, completely inefficient. I'm like, I'm going to show you a technique where you're going to drop half the time that you just spent because of that's kinesiology.
Yeah.
Right? My sports science is looking at the value of how they're doing it. How you can deal with the chef, what you do with broken shells. There's a whole list of things that you can do that will help the restaurant save money and time and promote it a lot better. And everyone can get excited about it. Then I do the one-on-one with the servers. And when I go in, usually what I tell my clients in New York, it's like a 3-day weekend with Paddy. I show up on a Thursday. I'll go in and I'll work with everybody Thursday night. And even we can start Thursday if you want to, where I'll do happy hour and shuck and work on the bar and converse with customers.
Show them how to do it right.
Right.
Then,
Friday is lessons day. So Friday it's the staff lesson. Then we can do a customer lesson where they can be a ticketed event, where they go, you want to learn oyster 101 with a pairing with wine? Patrick's going to do this just at happy hour. And here's a $25 ticket to get whatever. That's the thing that you can do. Then I'll work the service with the crew and do that thing. That's Friday night. We can do late night shuck. Saturday, we can go for a full-on oyster festival on Saturdays if you want to, or a Saturday brunch, full service. Sunday brunch, Paddy leaves. That's like 7 different things that happen in one weekend. That with lessons included and its experiences with the customer. So it shows the bartenders what I'm doing, shows the chef what I'm doing, and they can take the range. And they can take. Then it can be ongoing. Then it can be ongoing lessons, lesson plans. 12 months, what to do for oysters. This month, Christmas is insane. November is the best month in America. September is traditional oyster season. October, there's a harvest season, so you can add things into Halloween, into Oktoberfest, Oysterfest.
There you go.
Throw the beers and oyster. Come on, it's too easy. So for me, it's too easy. But these ideas, I give them all to everyone in the program and the concept. It gives them those ideas. Oh my God, I can do this with oysters. You can do the same with steaks if you wanted to, but I'm just that much into the ingredient. And we can do it with just about any oyster as well. You can get that way. So lots we can do.
So I mean, like they can start with some Zoom calls. So it's like look, make sure everything's going to work out. You can talk about the program, then you're there, you're hands-on, you're with the staff, you're showing them the experience, and then you're slowly kind of pulling back and letting them experience everything.
What I recommend, what I recommend to my clients is like sign me up for a year. It's a program that's like a subscription, so it's not like hiring a sommelier all the time. I'm virtual most of the time. But what I can do that's also value added is I can get the right product to them. So I'm not the wholesaler. I will connect them to the right wholesalers. I check out the wholesalers list, and I go this one, and you get direct pricing that way.
Yeah.
So if I was to do it, then I don't want to add on. It's too much math for me. I don't like that. But I will tell you, and I'll work with the wholesalers that you are. So if it's Seattle, I work with people who are local to them versus the ones that are working with Boston and New York or Toronto or wherever people are. So I can use and work with just about anyone who carries oysters. Yeah. So any broadliner, any individual wholesaler, because we'll get these oysters can come through even the largest broadliners. It's just a matter of organizing. Yeah. That's the last thing that I learned a lot about, especially in starfish, is called logistics. So how do I get my product? I used to bring in for myself starfish, one type of oyster, Prince Brown. So I just popped it on the truck and did that wholesale thing. So I learned that game a long time ago. Not everyone needs to get into it. You just need to work with someone who's got a good price, and that's like.
And you have the experience going all the way down the supply chain, all the way to
all the way,
right?
all the way down. And then they're working with the chef. If nobody wants to put out cocktail sauce, just go right ahead, make your own.
So I mean, you're basically, the principle that you take to heart here is, you can shuck an oyster for a man he eats for a day. Teach a man how to shuck, and he'll be shucking the rest of his life.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And I keep wondering, when's this going to end?
Yeah.
I'm still kicking around at 32 years. People still call me, can you come and do a festival? I go, you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, we had you there the past 8 years, please. I'm like, okay. Sure, and it works because I can put on a bit of a show and have some fun with it as well.
Yeah,
it is a fun food.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Like, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I've learned a ton. I think anybody watching at home, this is something that every restaurant needs to look at, especially with the summer season coming up.
Oh my God!
Everybody.
That's the fun thing too. People always say, summertime in Canada was months without an arm, maybe July and August. I'm saying that's 1500s. You have a fridge.
Yeah.
You're with an airplane, we can get oysters.
That was one of the few things I was going to ask you about the months that ended our
patio season. These oysters in the summertime, ridiculously good. You get them super cold, put them on ice. Nothing more refreshing than a plate of oysters in the middle of summer here in North America. Some of them will get thin at certain times. Again, it's knowing your seasons. Like grape, Beaujolais is in November for a reason. Tomatoes come out in August for a reason. You can get tomatoes all year long. The best are happening now. So we can focus on once certain oysters are only open, only available at certain times of year. Even good Prince Edward Islands, Johnny Flynn of Coval Bay only harvests for about 6 months out of the year. He loves lobster fishing more. It makes a great oyster. Please, Johnny. But he won't go past the whole year. He's like, no, when it's done, it's done. When I start, I start. And then when they start, and I tell clients, I go, Covals are in. You get them now, get them now. And they're like, okay, and they get on board. Like, wow, it's fantastic.
Awesome.
People understand it. Then the staff understand it. When the staff understand it, then the customers understand it.
Yep.
That's where it really comes down to. It's the education of the frontline people. There's nothing finer when you see a new person coming into the restaurant, and this happens all the time with my places. They come in, they go pick up the plate for the first time, they go, wow, that looks great. When that translates to look at your food, oh my God, that looks bad, it's my first day, look, it's great. That energy goes into the plate. So whenever I hire someone, no matter what it is, not just shucking, it's everything. You have to be happy with what you're doing in the restaurant, whether it's on the line, you're a line cook, you're doing salads, you're grilling, you're the chef, you're the server, you're the busboy. If you're happy, it's going to come out of the plate, and that's where customers are going to understand. So that's my major philosophy is customer comes third. Ingredients first, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Staff come a close second because they have to be able to translate that story of that ingredient to the staff who are going to tell it to the customer. That's how the customer becomes happy if they are third place. So we will exactly tell them what they're going to have.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I think that's all the time we have. You're about to go judge a contest, I think.
I don't know. Is it tomorrow yet?
Yeah.
I know.
But I think
Paddy talks a lot.
If anybody wants to get started, though, they go to, shuckerpaddies.ca.
At Shucker Paddy on the Instagram. Shuckerpaddy.ca is the website. Shucker Paddy with ice cream. I don't know. It's on everything. Everything is Shucker Paddy now. So you can email me through that. I've got a link tree, LinkedIn, all of that type of stuff. There's many different ways of connecting. Usually the instant social media is quite easy because it comes to that phone there.
Amazing. All right. Well, thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure there'll be lots of fun innovative things.
I love it when people are just coming around and having oysters.
Oh man, that one guy was committed. Thank you.
Oh yeah. I'll keep talking. Cheers.